What's up, Summer Mindsets? I got a new podcast episode with Ed Latimore. He was a boxer, Army veteran, and he's been featured on some of the world's top podcasts like Modern Wisdom with Chris Williamson, Fresh and Fit, The Knowledge Project with Shane Parrish. The list goes on. And I'm just grateful that Ed gave me the time to pick his brain and have a conversation. I'm sure you guys are going to like this podcast because it's got a lot of wisdom and context around decision making, whether you're an entrepreneur or whether you're a worker or just somebody trying to evolve and change their life for the better. We speak about holding you back. Why are you limiting yourself? And just your overall thought process. But if you haven't already, like, follow, and subscribe to this video. Without further ado,
love over hate, I am whatever I create, I am bold, staying brave, I am patient, never waiting, I am the face of motivation, I am the words of inspiration, I am.
So we're back with another episode. This one's a banger. This guy is, relatively well known in the, I guess you could call it the mindset space and social media. And he's got a good history of kicking ass and taking names. And you may have seen him on the Fresh and Fit podcast. But Ed Latimore, he's our guest today. He's from the hood with a degree in physics, and he's a real smart dude. I lost the game of chess with him, but I might get him back in the rematch. But Ed, man, just want to say thank you and welcome in to the pod today.
Hey, no problem, man. Thank you.
Man, yeah, so we know each other through a guest. I interviewed Jeremy Gardner, and I guess you've been on so many podcasts, it's hard to count now. Can you tell us a little bit about who Ed is really, and I guess just like where you're from, and you got a cool story I've heard many times. But I guess.
I'll try and do the abridged version. There's like the early life, grow up in the project, single mom, poor, all that kind of stuff. Then in my 20s, I decided to start boxing as an amateur, and I had a really great amateur career. Did pretty much everything you could do but go to the Olympics.
Mm-hmm.
And then from there, I turned pro, and I had a great pro career. But during this point in time, I'm like, one day boxing is going to be taken away from me. What should I do? And so I decided to enlist in the Army and use that to get money to go back to school. And so then I went back to school. And so and this all happened at the same time. It's not sequential, it is simultaneous. So I'm in school, I'm fighting professionally, serving in the Army and the National Guard, whole 2 weekends a month, 1 week a year, or 2 weeks a year deal. And then I start writing online because I really enjoy writing, though I'm getting better at producing videos for producing videos for the other platforms, because that's kind of you got to have a presence, and that is what it is. You got to have a presence, and it's a good time. And then throughout all of that, I managed to kick my issue with alcohol. I'm 10 years sober this year, and so it'll be 11 years this December, and that's cool. Got a little kid now. Didn't have a kid most of my life. Now I have a little one. He's 17. Is he 17? It'll be 17 months in 2 days. Yeah.
No way. Yeah, my puppy's 17 months too.
Yeah, people who get a puppy when they have a kid at the same time, like not when the kid's older and can do stuff, but like a newborn and a puppy. Ever seen it? It's madness. I don't know how you would do it, because like when you get a little kitten, you just take it out the box, fill up a little box, and it's good. You ain't really got to teach it anything. For a puppy, man, it's very much like a baby, except that phase lasts for like 4 weeks maybe.
Sure.
He still cries at night.
Oh man, yeah. Well, congrats on the kid, and becoming a dad, that's a big thing,
Yeah, it's one of those things. I wasn't sure if it was going to happen. I wasn't like for or against kids, and we weren't trying or anything. But like,
yeah, man.
I'll rephrase. Like we thought we were in the active prevention stage, and it turns out we weren't. And Yeah, and it's cool though because having a kid, I tell everyone that'll listen to this, will listen to this. Having a kid reveals the weak points in your life
Hmm.
because you have to show up for the kid. So you'll see areas where you are wasting time or where you are just,
Hmm.
not as efficient and optimal. And it really will force you to zone in and do things better. I wish in terms of like the clarity that I've really been forced to kind of accelerate and gain for business, not too much my personal life. I had a lot of that sorted out, thank goodness. Which is one of the reasons, you're in we were together 10 years before he showed up.
Mm.
So like, and you don't achieve that if you don't understand kind of yourself and how to relate to people. That's a really important thing. But the kid is something I wasn't sure was going to happen, and sure enough, he's here, and it really is awesome. It really is just like the day to day
Yeah.
little
Yeah.
things.
Yeah, man. Well, and I don't mean to get too sidetracked, but I guess like having that fresh and fit conversation and what they're all about with kind of dating and masculinity and I guess like exposing how I don't know if that's what I want to say, but when you speak to that, and I guess like me as a millennial who's kind of looking at or who's hearing things from circles or just social media or people I speak to, I'm hearing like the birth rates are declining in the West. And I've spoken to a couple people about that. But if you had to point to like a reason behind that, I know there's like people talk about economics and just dating culture is a little bit different, and maybe you know people don't want to have a kid as often as they used to. What's your opinion on that? Because you just advocated for kids, and I mean I'm an advocate for kids and having a family. Do you have like your 2 cents there?
Yeah. Okay. So one thing that's really important for people to remember when we talk about the declining birth rates, and there are two really notable things, and I guess I'll say them before I give my perspective. The first is that last year, or last, it was the last, yeah, last recorded year. It was actually for the first time in quite a few years that not a huge amount, but it wasn't a decline. It was an increase in birth rates here in the U.S. We're still below the replacement level, but it trended up. And and something that people don't like to talk about is what group did it trend up for?
Hmm.
It trended up every age group. It went down except over 35, which is where we're my the age of me and my wife when we had our
Hmm.
first kid. I have a buddy that just had his kid. He's over 35, but his wife is not. And then another friend, they both are plus 35 and had kids. So this is key. Just tuck that idea and
Yeah.
and and throw it away. But we're gonna revisit it. So I was not throw it away, but put it in that
Yeah.
container. The other thing is that it's not just the West; it's
Yeah.
any developed nation. Asia has been had a birth rate issue. All of Asia, not just like Japan or South
China,
Korea.
maybe. They're
China
against
too.
kids, actually, right?
Yeah. So
Or
so
girls.
it's not just a well they got rid of that policy because it was so because it's amazing. You think that politicians are intelligent and someone is sitting there coming up with like thinking about how these policies play out, and then you go, oh shit, if we keep getting rid of girls, one day we're gonna have a problem, and now they do.
Yeah.
Uh but the birth rates are down everywhere. Russia, like it's not a
Uh-huh.
it's not confined to the West, and that's something they talk about. Okay, so now we got those two ideas. Now let's visit a third, and then it'll all come together, and my point will be made here.
There we go.
If you track the GDP of a country as it goes up, the birth rate goes down. It is not what people think it is, which is
Hmm.
like, oh, no one's having kids because they're too expensive. Let me tell you something. I'm not. They're not free, obviously, but these motherfuckers don't really cost them. I mean, like, there's like a fixed cost increase. Like, we had to like get a house from an apartment, right?
Hmm.
And then we had to buy like car seats. But in terms of like the day to day maintenance of the child, man, between like hand me downs
Yeah, man. You don't need that
it's like
much.
it's just like, and even if we don't have hand me downs, like there's consignment, there's all kinds of stuff. Um, so what is going on? What's going on is that people are living longer. This is really important. They're living longer. Our technology and medicine is better. And the whole idea that you can't have kids after 35 or there's a risk is like, if you dig into the research on that, it's not solid. It's not a large sample size. It's not really developed. Nature's not stupid. It wouldn't have a woman go through menopause at 50, but then be like, but you're going to keep being able to have kids
Hmm.
uh, after a risk point that was arbitrarily designed to 30. People have more options and want to do more stuff. Do
Right.
I think that's good or bad for the future? I have no idea. I've debated this idea several times because up until what the 1850s ish, I think no, not 1850, like 1800 is the first time there were more than 1 billion people on this planet. We've been around since 300,000 years.
Uh-huh.
So which one is it? Are we overpopulated? Are we underpopulated? Are we, it's some extreme because most people weren't here for a while. But in terms of declining birth rates, I just think people just enjoying life. There's so much more shit to do now when
Yeah,
you're
there
when
is.
you're 30 than there was even in not even 50 years ago,
Yeah, man,
which
there's
is
a
which is crazy. 50 years ago was 1980 74. That's not that long ago, man.
yeah, man, yeah.
But there's just so much more to do, so much more ways, so many more opportunities. So people are just foregoing those to have kids. I think here's the problem we may encounter
Uh-huh.
is, man, it's hard to go backwards in terms of like what you're comfortable with.
Hmm.
So if you've been doing this whole like single thing
Yeah.
for till you're
T-
35, and this goes for men and women, though I think men have a particular challenge here, not women. um you're going to end up running into, it's going to be hard because you're going to have to figure out and find somebody. First of all, if you make it to 35 and you ain't found nobody, there's an old saying, a joke they used to have: any man who's single at 35 is either really smart or really ugly, right? And it's a joke, but there's a
Yeah.
lot of truth in that, because if you're not getting like,
Yeah, yeah,
it's
yeah.
one thing if you're like actively repelling them and just spinning plates, but
Yeah.
even still, you're building up a habit, and your brain is going to be real hard to switch over and
Yeah.
switch from, right? That's the issue a lot of times. Now, I think the people who are in relationships that start in their 20s and then they decide in their 30s, we're going to be all right. So what we need to look at is like, are people getting together?
I'd say, Ed, I'd like to get your thoughts on this too. I think like, perhaps you'd have a different opinion than me, but like the online dating stuff and then like guys like not hitting on women as much like in person because they're scared. Because if like as a society, you'll see maybe back in your day or prior to the online dating, like you'll see a guy, hit on a girl at a park, but now it's like everybody's on a phone and they're kind of scared because rejection sucks. And I think that's something you speak about too, like on one of those videos you made, like we're just you need to act, right? Like
Yeah,
you can't just, prepare too
that
much and then shit, nothing
that
happens.
then yeah, now that's a big deal. Now, how old are you?
I'm 28, 28.
Man, you are barely a millennial. What year were you born?
95, man. Yeah.
Okay, so
Is
you're
that do I
like you're like
my
the last year that
I'm
like
like
we
the made
let.
the cut.
But we consider, yeah, but so when you said back in the day, and then I remember you said you were
Never
a millennial at the same
mind.
time, I was like, are we the same thing? So right, so we're 10 years apart.
Mhm.
Which means that our high school experience was vastly different. We didn't have social media. We didn't really have, we had
Yeah.
the internet, but this wireless shit, that was science fiction at that point. Not
Yeah.
science fiction quite, like a few places had it, but like
Yeah.
you didn't have the money to be in the places. Um, so what you're describing is afflicting Gen Z a lot more,
Okay.
I think. And we see those numbers. We see the amount of the guys that are virgins or haven't had sex in a year under the
Yeah,
age
yeah,
of
yeah.
30. Uh, we see the number of long-term kind of coupling relationships that are even happening, because there is a certain aspect of dating, right? That people
Yeah.
don't think about. That the mere act of approaching a girl already sets you apart,
Mm.
or already sends a signal, whether you get rejected or accepted or not. And it builds this resiliency muscle. This is
Yeah.
something that Gen Z completely suffers with. I don't know if you're familiar with any of the work of Dr. John Haidt, but he's wrote a few great books. One of them, The Coddling of the American Mind.
Might need to
He
check that out.
he specifically talks about the challenges of Gen Z and how these manifest. Gen Z is the generation where there was the survey that just came out from employers in New York, over 800 of them, and they talked about the problems why they're not hiring Z, and they were like 19% of them refused to turn on the Zoom camera
No.
for an interview. 50% were bringing their parents to work, or 25%. It's nuts. So and that's because there's this overcorrection from Gen X, who are mostly their parents, where they got exposed to shit like Matt Walsh and America's Most Wanted, and then there were all these helicopter parents, and so everybody's
Participation
freaked
trophies and
out,
stuff like that. Yeah.
stuff like that. So all of these kids are like, they're afraid to take risks. And so that is a fact. And if you don't take a risk, there's just no way to get tough. It's like working out in the gym. You got to expose yourself to some type of discomfort or hardship to go, okay, this is not a big deal, but then come out of it better and more able to deal with the other types of hardship and that you'll face. So, it was the rise of safe spaces too, right? Safe spaces is another thing you trace the timeline. Those start popping up right when the earliest crop of Zers right around your age get to college, or our younger millennials. It's a big deal, and if it's not corrected, well, the cool thing is that like I feel like there are some corrections, people kind of seeing how jacked up it is. And people are like, whoa, we got to stop some of this shit. Let that kid go out there and get his knees straight. Kind of deal, and figure these things out, learn to talk to people. But yeah, you're right. In terms of the social media, and social media, it's not even the dating apps, because my opinion of dating apps are where you go when no one wants to date you, kind of by definition.
Right.
Like, you don't end up on the dating app if you have a lot of like even
not a game or whatever, or like,
especially women. Men, I can see some dudes, the way I used to look at it, I was like, this is my little bank account. It's always collecting interest when I'm out here working for the money, approaching a person. But if you look at it that way, this reminds me of something Zuby said. This is like brilliant. He's like, every app is a dating app if you're attractive enough. And so like
LinkedIn counts.
LinkedIn counts.
Fucking
LinkedIn, Twitter. That my homie, AJ Cortez, he met his wife through Twitter.
Okay.
Like it's how it goes. Everything, like when you're attractive or you're not afraid to make the move, every medium works for you.
Yeah.
The problem is if you only rely on that medium because you don't have the physical, you're not attractive enough to the eyes. I think Rolo said this, speaking of like that whole coterie, is he said, that the guys shouldn't be on dating apps because most guys aren't attractive enough physically to pass that threshold where they're going to get any attention. And so that means that, again, that's nature just letting guys know, it's life on hard mode. You got to get out there and work for what you want to eat.
Yeah, true that. Yeah, true that. No, I'm not on dating apps, so
I've heard some. You're in San Fran. I've heard some
shit show.
Some interesting. Well, I haven't heard anything from the guys, so I don't know. But I've heard about the guys from some girls, and I find that
bad market, huh?
It sounds like it's if you got your shit together and every guy has his shit together out there. Yeah. That's one thing that no one is lacking. Like no one's meeting cats down in the Tenderloin, basically. Okay, so what I'm for reference, the Tenderloin is like Skid Row is like
dangerous spot,
hood, right? If anyone doesn't know, but that's not the issue. The issue is like that it's this, for lack of a better word, soft,
yeah, man, yeah,
softness that these guys have, and these girls are like, I've been told I'm supposed to like this, but this shit sucks. So yeah, so all you got to do in your region, man, is just not be a
I'm moving to
Not
Miami.
the
So
pussy. Yeah. Now Miami, Miami's on the other end of the spectrum where like
I can get with that, man. I mean, it's just to make
you
life.
like I think it was my wife that said something like this,
Uh-huh.
real into, and I actually hadn't been to Miami yet, or maybe I'd only been once when she said this, and it was like, you live in Miami, it's really hard for a regular white girl living in Miami because everyone is in shape and everyone's foreign and exotic, all that, right? Even
Uh-huh.
the poor people, right? Uh, and so as a dude, you're it switches, the difficulty switches. And in San Fran, you probably shooting fish in a barrel. I mean, they might not be the biggest, tastiest fish,
Yeah,
but
yeah,
it's
yeah.
gonna be easy to eat. Yeah, but Miami is probably like the Marina Trench,
Oh,
the
okay.
biggest, fattest fish.
We just gotta
But
throw the hook
but
out
you
once.
got to be able to survive that pressure, man. That's the
Oh shit.
deepest part in the place in the world. I mean, that's what I've heard about Miami. That's what because
Yeah, man, I can,
I never visited Miami as a single dude, so I don't know. But
yeah.
but I don't know what dating's like down there, and
Man,
it's one.
yeah, man. I mean, no, I think it's an interesting conversation to have, I think it's like that's a conversation people don't want to have or they don't want to look themselves in the mirror, right? But you as a boxer, you would you would get punched in the face for a living and you'd hit back. So I guess doing that, right, Ed, like that's something that's like a trait like you call it resilience or perseverance or just
You know what I
heart,
call
right?
it, man? It's fucking crazy. That's what it is.
Yeah, it is a little bit crazy.
But it's fun.
Yeah.
First off, like everybody who fights got something wrong with them. I
Uh-huh.
really believe, at least boxing. I don't, MMA culture is a little different, largely because it takes a little more money. Uh, and overall, there's a higher learning curve, so you tend to weed out people who don't have money or who
Hmm.
don't have the patience. Uh, and that ties into a certain socioeconomic background, which boxing really appeals to. But if you let the sport do what the sport's going to do, and the sport's going to be the sport, nobody beats boxing. Okay,
Hmm.
uh, it really has the capacity to transform you into something cool, something better than yourself, because you're facing every single day. It's not just a physical challenge out there. That's the easy part. You could get that
It's
just
like
going
that
to the
mental work,
gym.
huh?
It's the mental, it's the emotional, not just in the ring, but in practice, not just in the boxing environment of competition, but even, when you're first starting out, unless you like an Olympian, you got to learn how to sell yourself. You got to learn how to sell tickets. That means
Marketable and
you have
yeah,
to be likable. Because
likable.
what you're trying to do when I would go out and sell tickets, what I was trying to do is I live in Pittsburgh and I did most of my initial fights in West Virginia. For a little geography lesson, that it's about an hour drive, about 70 miles away,
Mm,
60, 70 miles away. So I had to convince people to spend $30 to $50 to drive down on a Friday or Saturday night. So one of the times where they would have their free time
yeah.
and watch me, if I do my job correctly, do it shortly. So it's an hour drive to watch at the longest. A 6 round fight is what I was fighting around here. 6-3 plus 5 minutes in between. At the longest, a 23-minute affair.
Mm. Oh yeah, yeah, yeah.
you know, um, and so you got to learn how to work and do that. That's something you
What
can't get.
what kept you like in the boxing for that, however many years you were in there? Because yeah, as you allude to, it takes a lot of discipline and heart and like craziness.
Initially, I went into boxing because I needed something to do. I
Mm,
wasn't doing much with my life at all, and I felt like I was just wasting away. I think I was working at Starbucks and drinking. I wasn't doing anything. Wasn't really disciplined. I was really turning into, like, if you ask, what does this guy do or know, and they'd be like, nothing. Okay,
mm,
so I didn't want to be a regular old regular old dude. As I kept training, and I liked that I was learning something. that was applicable. And you can see that maybe there's a future that's great for you, but I had no idea. Like half the things
You fought
when
on
I
HBO, no? You had a fight on
on Showtime.
Showtime. There we go.
But even before that, that's just the cool thing. That's like kind of what you expect to happen. But along the way, the friends I meet, the programs I was part of. I was telling you before we started recording, and I was
Yeah.
living in Los Angeles for 2 years. That's how I ended up out there. Is that I was sponsored. They paid for me. They flew me out,
Oh
paid
yeah.
for my apartment, paid for my food. It was a good experience, and I became an even better fighter because of it. But that's all the little things that happen that you don't think about. I was just thinking about I want to be a little cooler. I go to a party, I want to have something to say I do. I'm not just this cat drinking and working at Starbucks. I don't want to be boring.
Yeah.
Um, but and then what kept me what eventually you see you have a little talent, a little potential, and then I
Hmm.
stick around for that. And then at some point it was sunk cost where I was like, fuck man, I've been doing it for so long. I might as well keep doing it.
Mm.
Uh and so it's a part of my life where I was like, I can't believe that I did this. And I'm
Yeah, man.
so happy I made the decision to do it.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. No, I think
Because look, I tell people ask me, when I fought too. I used to get this a lot when I fought. They go, why are you doing this, man? Why are you getting hit in the head? And I'm like, aren't you worried about CTE or brain damage? I'm like, look, man, I'm gonna die anyway, right? As are you. Nobody beats this thing alive. Here's the difference. When I'm old and on my deathbed, I'm gonna have some cool ass stories to
there you
tell
go.
people. You're not gonna talk about any big shots you took in your life and how you went after and did things. I went and really tried something and really and had some success with it.
Yeah, no, no, I agree, man. Yeah, I think one thing I wanted to ask you too is before we get into crackhead energy and a little
Crackhead.
bit of the jokes you got, what can people do to activate courage, right? Because I think like the first conversation we had with like the online dating or like the thing like why men don't approach women as often as they used to, or why rates are declining and why there's a problem anytime I think about that. Yeah, what can people, because you as a boxer, you're physically putting your safety at
You
risk, right?
you have to realize you ain't gonna die. Everyone, here's the thing, all right?
Yeah, yeah,
Like
yeah.
from so when your ego gets crushed,
That's it. Yeah.
you feel like you died. And we know this. Let's forget all the physio. Let's forget all the so what I want psychology behind this. We know from neuroscience, from watching the reaction when a person is ignored or rejected, the brain registers that as if they had been physically attacked, hit. We know that. So
Uh-huh.
we know that rejection fucking hurts.
Yeah.
Okay. Say we're getting punched. Hurts. But one of the things that I used to love, a lot of fighters have said this to me. It's not just me that has this thing. When you get in a fight, first thing you want to do, you want to get touched a little bit because you want to know that you're not fragile, that it's not going to kill you.
Mm.
And then you remember it's just pain.
Yep.
It's just a little pain. It's going to go away. Doesn't mean anything. Everything in boxing hurts. Now, even a block punch, man, all that shit hurts. Okay.
Hmm.
Uh, but you're not going to die.
Hmm.
When you remember that it ain't going to kill you, you just take the steps to go do stuff.
Yeah. 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 Yeah.
Like the worst that happens, let's say you approach a girl and she laughs in your face. As long as you're respectful, you don't go grab her ass randomly or something where she like swings on you. So what's gonna happen? With worst case scenario, she's gonna laugh at you. She's gonna point. She's gonna take some photos, post that shit on social media. Like imagine a worst case scenario.
Yeah.
And then remember when people got so much stuff that they're worried about, the few people that's gonna know the circus. It's not like she got a bunch of fans, and even if she does, you're just gonna get a bunch of clout and daps from dudes who are like, wow, man, balls to you for doing that.
Dude, yeah.
But none of this stuff's gonna kill you. Your life's gonna go on like normal. That's the worst that's gonna happen. But the best thing that can happen is she is very receptive.
Yeah.
And she's like, wow. And then who knows what can happen. But most times it's gonna be somewhere in the middle where it's a polite decline, whatever. But
Yeah.
you continually build that muscle.
Uh-huh.
And that's all it is, man. That is all it is. You can't. I used to think there was a way to teach someone to be courageous.
Hmm.
You can't. You just have to get them to understand that what they're worried about is not going to kill them.
I love it. I like how you phrase that, man. I think just a lot of dialogue about that whole thing about, why don't you do that? It always requires courage, right, to change your life from point A to point B, and whether that's a girl, the job, or a sale, or
Yeah,
whatever you want.
people want a guarantee in life. Ain't no
Yeah,
fucking guarantees, man.
other than taxes, and you know what?
And even then, right? You dodge them for a little bit,
There you go. There.
but ain't no guarantees except but the quote is saying right, taxes and death. Okay. So then what you have to then become comfortable with is uncertainty.
Right.
Uncertainty and thinking in probabilities and not determinism.
I
Because
love
when you
that,
think
man.
about probabilities, you go, okay, what are the odds of if let's say you got like a 10% success rate, okay?
Okay.
And you can improve that. You didn't look smacks, you didn't got your game on point, you're interesting, you getting some money, but
Hmm.
your approach rate is, your success rate is 10%.
Hmm.
So the person who's afraid is going to see, man, that means 9 out of 10 times I'm going to get rejected. That's how they think.
Yeah.
Someone who is courageous and is looking at this the right way, they're gonna think, so I gotta approach 1,000 girls to get 100 of them. Okay, right? That's how they think.
Yeah. Yeah.
And
That's a
it's
funny thing.
like the stat didn't change. The amount of rejections actually increased for the other guy, for the guy that goes and makes the move.
Hmm.
The amount of painful experiences. The only thing that did not change, the percentage. The biggest difference, the thing that did not change or did change, is the approach to a formidable situation. And once you understand that nothing's going to kill you, and many of these things that you're worried about, they have an asymmetrical um, ROI.
Yeah.
It's not you. It's not that you go and you approach a girl. This is just the the arena where we're tackling this problem in. But it's not just you go and you approach a girl and either she says yes or no, right? Or there's success and failure.
Hmm.
If there's success, that's great because who knows how your life will go after that. But even if she says no, well, you come away with the knowledge that you tried, you made a
Yeah.
better story, you feel better that you could do
You
this,
don't
you
regret not
realize it ain't
asking the
gonna
chick
kill
out,
right.
you know?
You never regret making a move.
Yeah,
No,
that's
you
true.
you fucking regret a lot of
Yeah,
not
I still regret not chick. I'm just playing.
yeah, but everything you don't like because when that's where a guarantee is.
Yeah.
When you don't do something, it's the only then the outcome is guaranteed. You won't get it.
Yeah. Yeah.
The only time you got a guarantee in life. Okay.
Yeah, the answer is always no if you never ask, so.
Exactly. And you can't do anything with that, man. Nobody knows you're trying, peeking around, looking for stuff. It never
Yeah.
doesn't go anywhere for you.
Well, Ed, I gotta ask you like about your entrepreneurial endeavors. I mean, even being a boxer, I'm realizing that's damn entrepreneurial in itself. But I think entrepreneurship it gets a lot of spotlight because it's cool and it makes a great 10-second clip. But I think like the reality of it, right? Like being a boxer, I'm thinking you're cool because you're a boxer, right? But like you would say like, oh no, this waking up at 5 a.m. and
Oh,
all
I
this
would
shit.
tell, man, look, I tell every kid, I do some part-time coaching. I tell every kid that comes to the gym who thinks they're gonna fight for money. Go, if you want money, go get a job. It's because boxing is the worst of both worlds. And I think a lot of performing endeavors are like this because even though boxing is a sport, the
Hmm.
way it's structured, I think it's closer to music in terms of the industry than it is um, the other sports. So on the one end, it's the worst of the 9 to 5 world because you have to practice consistently, usually at a set time. Otherwise, you won't be good enough. Like forget the coach I have faith you won't be good enough to compete. So there's that. But your salary you don't get paid. You get paid when you perform. So it's the worst of the entrepreneurial side. You
Yeah.
don't even have the freedom. Your income is just sporadic.
Yeah.
So like it's it really is the worst of both worlds. But you do it because you get stuff from it. You gain. You you know. But in terms of the other stuff, like I just not just I'm actually on the tail end of it now. But I remember last year, this time, a little before it was like February, March,
Hmm.
I was going over my contract for my book.
Hmm.
And I made a post about this on I'm reading. I was like, this is a lot more forgiving than a fight contract.
Oh, wow.
Oh, a lot more forgiving. Because it's fun. But I say that I bring that up to say, you know, when it's weird because I know technically I'm considered an entrepreneur. I like to consider myself an artist with enough business sense to not starve. Uh, but but no matter which way you go, if you go the non-conventional route of drawing a salary,
Hmm.
uh, you're now in deep water by yourself. You'll find out if you're a good swimmer or not. And
Oh,
it's
as an
not in
entrepreneur
it.
or boxer
Yeah,
or anything like that. Yeah.
entrepreneur, a boxer, and it's not placid, calm water. Fucking
Yeah.
waves show up every now and then, a hurricane out of
Maybe a
nowhere. You're
shark.
like, I didn't even know those could show up and they're like, yeah, sharks. It's crazy, but it's good because you have what I have is something I would not trade for anything. I get to spend every single day with my son. I get to, we take them for walks and hang out with them. And then I
Hmm.
can take other opportunities to show up. We can do this podcast in the middle
Yeah.
of the day. I just realized it's like 9 a.m., almost 10 for you.
Yeah, you're in Pittsburgh or Pennsylvania? Yeah, is that where you're
Yeah, I'm in EST, yeah, in Pittsburgh, PA. So for me, it's noon. For you, it is not noon. Oh, it's
from? There you go. Yeah, well, Ed, I guess a couple quick things I'd love to jump into, like the crack energy thing, but I guess like one more thing to piggyback on what you just said right there. A boxer, your boxing career, and even going to the army, I've read, and as an entrepreneur, right, like you just alluded to, it's not guaranteed. The waters are painful, and how do you think that those two experiences, helped you as you try to scale a business or scale your brand, or you know,
you know what? I have faith in myself.
yeah.
That's the biggest thing. The more hard things you go through and put yourself through, and the more successes you have with them, I the more you believe in yourself when you face an unknown, when
Hmm.
you face something difficult. Because you can't control the outcome, right? So even without the successes. But what I know, for example, is I understand how a little bit of work every day, builds on itself, and eventually you have a product, you have a proof of concept, you have an audience, you have something
Hmm.
you can use, something you can do. When I wrote my book, the one that we're in the process of cleaning up to submit to see, if
What's the
it's
title of the book, by the way?
hard lessons from the hurt business. It's not out yet. That's the
Nice.
one I got the contract to write. Um, but we had, for example, this is a real life example. I got that. I signed the contract in March.
Hmm.
Henry was 3 months, 4 months old, and then we had to move because we needed more space. And moving is stressful. Having a baby is stressful. A little baby, and now I got this. I got a right to contract. It's not like the writing I do on my site. I can put that out whenever I want to. I got to have this thing done. So what happens? I find the little time to write here and there, like stay up late, wake up early, get 20. This is back when he was napping like shit. So I'm
Hmm.
like wake up, or around wake up and get like 20 to 30 minutes in the day to write. And before I knew it, by Halloween, the book was finished. I was like, wow.
Hmm.
but I had faith that a little bit every day. And
Yeah, yeah,
that's very hard for people who haven't done something like that because we people terrible at patience in the future.
yeah, 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 yeah.
Knowing that if you know that eventually if you just keep at it, it'll stack up, it'll stack up, it'll stack up, it'll build, and before you know it, you've made serious progress.
Mm-hmm.
And that's what I know from boxing. Boxing is the reason why I ended up getting a degree in physics
Right.
because I failed all my math. I mean, I was bad at math. I technically didn't even graduate from high school. But fighting and seeing how I improved, that gave me the confidence to re-tackle math and
Wow.
re-tackle school. I said, okay, eventually I'm going to be this guy because I did it with my body. I can do it with my mind too. Let's see what happens.
Man, that's a good way to look at it. Yeah, I've written a book too, and yeah, I've gone that rabbit hole. Well, it's not out yet, but yeah, I know what you're saying. You get a manuscript, you get the book deal, then that's
Yeah. Then it's like now I'm sitting there thinking every day. It's like this low level anxiety. Like, man, I don't know if I'm gonna finish this shit. But what you do, and it's awesome.
Yeah, I mean, so I guess like one or two more things before we hit up the crackhead energy thing. I mean, your posts on LinkedIn or you got shouted out by one of those the dude who wrote Diary of a CEO. Did you expect
Yeah,
that to happen
Stephen
or
Bartlett. Nah,
yeah.
man, I didn't. You know what happens,
No?
man?
But
Here's why I never plagiarize. I never copy people's
uh-huh.
words. If I either give you credit, and if I know I didn't say it, but I can't figure out who said it, I put quotes around it, and I'll go back and edit it if I find out who said it. Because my life, not a big change, but a noticeable one, and one I'm extremely grateful for. James Clear quoted me in his book.
Did he? No way.
Yeah, he didn't
The
have
habit,
he
Atomic Habits.
yeah he didn't have to do that. He could have easily taken the words himself. He quoted me in the newsletter.
Mm.
Got a fucking boatload of subs because the newsletter's got like 2 million people. He quoted me in the newsletter from something else. Didn't have to do it. Could have said it was his idea. Nope. He quoted me.
Did he ask you for permission or like I guess
Nope.
like no?
Because he would have be like, nah, James, well, with your millions of followers and fans, can't quote me. I don't want that kind of press. Like,
Yeah,
now
yeah, yeah.
what we gonna do? Ask me for it. I would say he just hit me up one day. He was like, yo, I threw you in the book. So
Oh,
figured,
tight.
cool. I was like, cool. And I'm sure this was way before he knew it was going to turn into what it turned into.
Uh-huh. Uh-huh.
Now the quotes after that, he knew what he had, and he still was cool.
Man.
Uh, I have no idea where Stephen Bartlett got that from because he doesn't follow me,
Mm-hmm.
and he could easily have taken the credit himself.
Yeah, yeah.
So
Um,
I don't know Stephen personally,
yeah.
but he's cool in my book because he did the right thing.
Man, let's read the quote. So it says, embarrassment is the cost of entry. If you aren't willing to look like a foolish beginner, you'll never become a graceful master. Ed Latimore.
Yeah,
You
I
said it
don't
on a
know him.
podcast or he just knows you said it or something?
He just knows I said it because someone quoted me somewhere else and it floated around and made the rounds.
Oh,
So
dang.
yeah, no, he's a solid. I mean, I don't know him, but the fact that he did that, he's a solid dude. Whenever I see people with these
Yeah.
huge followings, um, and they give the author credit, and they don't have to because no one's got a monopoly on first of all, anything you put on social media is free. It's not like I was getting paid for it and he took it.
Mm-hmm.
So he could just go use it. He could have did that, but no, man, it's cool. It shows integrity. Like aside from like
Yeah.
how it helps me out with people. I had people messaging me I ain't seen in fucking years,
Oh,
decades.
damn.
Like yo, I just seen you in Atomic Habits, man. Like
Oh, dang. Yeah.
yeah. Well, because like the book still sells something like 20,000 copies a week, man.
Really? Wow.
Nuts, 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 nuts. Um, I'm real appreciative, man. I'm just real
Yeah,
appreciative of that love.
yeah. No, yeah. I mean, that's a big. I was like, oh dang, that's. Am I talking to that dude? I'm talking to Ed tomorrow.
Yeah.
I was like, Ed's growing and fan. Well, Ed, what are your when it comes to social media, like, or I mean, your own brand, like, what are your goals really when it comes to that? Is it just get brand deals, or go
Okay,
down
so
stuff?
I had to think about this uh for a while because one of the things I did last year,
Mm-hmm.
along with writing the book, is I had to really think about what I wanted to be known for because my strength has always been can talk about many things. And I'm like, what am I interested in? What do I really want to focus and dial in on? Now, I still talk about many things, but the majority of my content really does uh, reflect one or two major ideas, or three really, and then
Mm-hmm.
subsidiaries of that and corollaries. But my goal with social media is to grow my mailing list. My mailing list is to have a bunch of people uh, it will make it easier for me because I've learned I enjoy coaching and I enjoy speaking
Mm-hmm.
way more than anything else by a pretty huge margin. Online passive income is really nice and useful and keeps the lights on and the food on the table. But in terms of where I get the greatest enjoyment from it, it would be stuff like this, or speaking in front of an
Sure.
audience, or working with a client one on one. So that's really what I want to use social media for going forward. And the big difference here is I had not thought about this problem this way. I was like, I'm still a big fan of Jack Butcher's idea. He's got a quote where he says, "First you build the distribution, then you build whatever you want."
Mm-hmm.
I like that idea. That's good. But what I think for me going forward, especially looking at some of the ways the algorithm favors things,
Mm-hmm.
and and the rooms I want to be in and the peers I want to have, I inverted it. I said, okay, what do I want to discuss and be known for? What is natural to me? Where do my credentials most line up naturally? All right, now let's create a following from social media based around that.
Mm. Yeah, yeah, no, I like a lot of the videos. I mean, they're funny. When you talk about the crackhead energy thing, I think like, yeah, if you're familiar with crackheads, they gonna find a way to get that crack, you know what I'm saying? It's not like they're gonna go to
That's
sleep
a
without
great
it.
example. Whoever, someone put that out there, and people tag me all the time whenever someone uses it because then they didn't credit me because they weren't a big, they didn't have that in them. They just
Do you have
decided,
crackhead energy, Ed, when it comes to certain things or no? Or I mean, we
man,
all do, right? But like
yeah, for certain things,
sometimes,
yeah, and that's what it's got to be because the idea is like not to be an addict, at least not for crack, but it's to not accept the limitations in front of you. There
right?
is always a way. You will find it if you want something bad enough.
Why do you think we set? I mean, I know coming to the end, but like, why do you think people set like a limitation, right? Like, because I think that's the ego thing, right? Because you don't want your ego to get hurt, or like maybe you
Uh,
failed a lot, and yeah, what's your thoughts on that?
I've always said that people will argue for their limitations way more than the person who's arguing to take them away. Or they'll argue more, they'll put more energy into arguing for their limitations than trying to overcome them.
Mm-hmm.
Because here's the thing: when you have a limitation, when you have the narrative you are creating is something beyond my control that I can't do anything about is preventing me from doing this. So because it's beyond my control and there's nothing to do, so therefore that justifies me not doing anything about it. Uh, and that's very comforting. That sounds a lot better than I'm lazy as shit.
Yeah,
All right,
yeah.
it's a lot like, I don't care enough, and I know I should. So that's why people argue for limitations. Something I get a lot of flack for, or not a lot of flack. I don't think I get a lot of flack because I always phrase the question. I phrase it in kind of an open-minded discussion way, but I always say to people, what if we found a cure for depression?
Mm.
Um, and it's always that way. And you can tell
Yeah, they'll
people who have
argue that.
made
They'll
this
argue that.
made this part
There's
of
no cure.
their
Yeah,
identity. There's no cure. But
yeah,
what if we did find one? What if
yeah.
I told you that we have a treatment that would fix that for you? What would you
Mm-hmm.
do? Because when if you take that away, then it's got to be something else.
Yeah, no, I get what you're
Uh,
saying.
so that's why people buy now. I don't want anyone to listen to this and be like, oh man, this motherfucker saying depression's not real. Nah, man, I've seen it.
Sure.
I don't know if I've seen it, but as I look back on my life now with the sober glasses
Yeah.
on a lot of the drinking times, I was definitely afflicted by it. Here's the difference. I've also had a fucking cold and I went to train because I
Uh-huh.
had to train. I've been broke and and couldn't. I was so worried about money, and I still got up and went to work and did what I had to do.
Mm-hmm.
You know, if you're yes, there are times where you need to take a pause out. I would say those times are extraordinary events, and if
Right.
and if or like it was fuck. I was having this conversation a few weeks ago with the insurance agent because I went to update my insurance because I realized that I had my sister and my mom as the beneficiaries, not I'm not Anna,
Uh-huh.
um, whatever. So I'll go and I'm settling on all this stuff and making sure if something happens to me, my family's taken care of. And then the broker's like, have you considered getting a policy for Henry, my kid? And I'm like I need insurance for him for, bro. And that looks suspicious. Like if something happens. And she was like, a lot of people think that, but you don't understand how distraught and grief stricken you're gonna be if something happens to your kid. You will not want to work. And you will not be able to work. And I thought about that and I said, holy shit, yeah, I never thought about it.
Oh,
And it's,
damn.
and then they were like, no, don't get like 1 million on him. That's crazy.
Yeah, yeah,
Uh,
yeah.
but it was a little $50,000 policy. But like, yeah, but because like no matter what happens, you're not going to want to do anything
Yeah, yeah,
as
yeah,
you
yeah.
deal with that. And so I said, okay, right. And so that's like the type of stuff, you lose your spouse or a close friend dies
Mm-hmm.
or your child, yeah, you're probably gonna be a little depressed. But a lot of stuff that makes someone depressed, I think a lot of it is you need to go first, you need to realize is you can feel that way. That has nothing to do with your actions. People act in spite of how they feel all the time.
Yeah.
Uh,
Yeah, yeah.
so even to invoke that is it's just not honest.
I think that's like a big problem, right? Like we people I've even seen what with myself. Yeah, that's the problem I have, like letting emotions dictate decisions or, feeling about your perception on a day. I mean, it's strange, but that's plagued society like ever since, we've had that
Yeah,
type of
yep. But because here's the thing, right? People. One of the things Andrew Tate says that
I was just gonna say
is
Andrew Tate, yeah. Depression isn't
well,
real, right? But like
right.
next to that.
Now he's popping it off with the engagement, and I get it and respect the game. But if we dive deeper, one of the he gave an example, and it's a really good example. And he's like, look, whether if you were sitting around and you had to walk 5 miles or something like that to feed your family, is
Hmm.
depression going to stop you from doing that, or to feed yourself for your family?
Hmm.
You going to just starve to death? Like, no, you can muster energy you got to do it. And that's
Hmm.
likely what life was like. I'm not saying you should or should not deal with your issues, but what I
Hmm.
am saying is that your issues,
Shouldn't
that
stop.
particular issue, it does not stop you from taking the actions that you know are relevant to your life. Yeah, okay, so maybe you don't go out there and and try to conquer the world, but you at least
Yeah.
don't let your world fall apart.
Yeah, man, yeah. No, that's big facts. I like that, man. I think that yeah, I mean it's an interesting society, like the frameless society that we are right now. I think it's just like you'd see ads for like therapy and I'm like, well, I mean, how bad is your life really, man? Like I mean, I've been through some shit and like I've
Right.
I'm saying.
One of the things he says too, man, quoting Tate, he's like, like your life isn't bad because you're depressed. You're depressed because your life sucks.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Or rather to be more poetic, your life doesn't suck because you're depressed. You're depressed
Yeah.
because your life sucks. If you go and just start taking actions, back to what we were saying earlier in the conversation, um, about how to develop courage, where you just go do the thing, realize it ain't gonna kill you.
Man, that's a big time statement right there. No, we get I mean, I think, like people too nowadays like they don't make claims and stick to them, right? Like they'll just or I don't know what I think like perhaps society is a little bit soft, right? Like, that
It's extremely soft.
yeah,
Yo,
right?
I,
Yeah.
I I have a great article on this that I wrote for my newsletter because I like to think about these problems because they're fun and interesting, and I like to write about them because they clarify my mind.
Right.
But you have to remember something. This era of humanity that we're in, we'll
It's
call it the last 50 years, and even that's probably too generous. Really, the last 20
last
years.
15, yeah, 20, yeah.
But it doesn't matter what we call it. The fact is, Homo sapiens have been on this planet for 300,000 years. Most of that time was cold, fucking wet, dark, miserable, but we managed to build and thrive and grow communities and figure things out. We
Mhm.
didn't have a chance to be soft and have good times. What? No, even a good time. Look, well, what is that comparison? Even a bum today lives better than the goddamn king of France, man. Like
Yeah,
the
yeah.
king of France before they went through the revolution, King Louis the 15th. Like that. It's not even close, and
That
that's
bum
made
got
life
video on
super.
demand.
Right, like, dude, you are on the other side of the state or other side of the country,
Uh-huh.
3,000 miles away, and we're having a conversation.
Yeah, 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 yeah.
And an in-person conversation, quote unquote. We're like not just we're talking on the phone, but
Uh-huh.
man, life has become unbelievably easy. But as Agent Smith says in the Matrix, when he's trying to get, oh, don't tell me you're too young to have seen that.
No, I know Neo. No, you're not talking about I know Kung Fu. You're talking about what
I'm
are you talking?
talking about there's this great scene when Agent Smith is trying to get the codes to Zion from Morpheus. And he says to Morpheus, he goes, the first Matrix was designed to be a paradise. No problems.
Uh-huh.
But you rejected it. We lost thousands of crops because your mind couldn't conceive of a world without problems.
Uh-huh.
He says that as a negative. I think that's a positive
Is
for
that the red pill,
future of
blue pill
humanity.
thing?
Not that,
That's
no.
not that.
But what Smith is saying there, he's making a great commentary.
Mm-hmm.
That people need a problem. We need something to fight against, something to attack, something to deal with. And when you remove all of those problems,
Yeah.
you get new problems to worry about
Yeah.
that ain't
Yeah.
real
Yeah.
problems. And look and check it out. This is seen in biology, one of my favorite books, The Epidemic of Absence. It talks about the rise in food allergies and allergies in general, but food allergies is of a particular interest.
Mm-hmm.
And what the author shows is that as a country's GDP rises, its incident of food allergy rises because GDP tends to create a cleaner environment. Okay,
Mm-hmm.
it's one of those proxies we can look at, right? Not a lot of rich countries that are true dumps with no running water, no sanitation system, things like that.
Yeah.
So what your immune system does, because your immune system evolved in a really nasty, icky environment, that 300,000 years, right?
Yeah.
Back before we even knew what microbes were, and we were giving motherfuckers leeches to deal with
Oh yeah,
illness.
yeah, 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 yeah. I've heard of that.
Here's what your immune system does, because that's what it evolved it. It doesn't tamp down. It doesn't go, okay, I'm gonna take the day off. It's like, shit, man, ain't no bugs around here. I got to attack something. That looks like a virus, and it's really just a harmless fucking
Right.
pecan,
Right.
right? And so
Right.
I got a tree nut allergy, right? So that's the idea. We see this happen in nature with
Mm-hmm.
the immune system. And so psychologically, the same thing happens. We don't
Psychological.
have any problems. Let's invent one. Let's attack. Let's decide to fucking let's say that misgendering is bad and we
Yeah.
need safe spaces and talk about microaggressions because we don't have a real aggression.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. No,
Not that we need one. I'm not advocating for us to return to the dark ages, but we would be remiss if we didn't discuss the problems with the lifestyle that we live now.
yeah. Do you think it's what would you say the cure is, or maybe like perhaps like what you could do to I know it's, activating courage and I mean finding the meaning that matters to you, but I think
Well,
like
here's what you have to do. Evolution is done in terms of its natural progression. Now what happens next is forced. You develop because you decide to step into challenge and adapt.
hmm
Okay, then that's macro on a micro level. So, for example, say what you want about the cold plunge movement, and you got a bunch of white guys in tubs always doing this shit.
I'm
And,
like, yeah. What's up with
But
that?
it's a challenge.
Yeah, right. Yeah.
It's difficult. It forces you to do something highly uncomfortable and get comfortable doing it.
Hmm.
Same with CrossFit. Say what you want about CrossFit. You're not gonna be fat and do CrossFit. I'll tell you that. I see a lot of chubby motherfuckers still going to the gym.
Yeah,
You
right.
know, it's hard. You got to find challenge. You have to push yourself to embrace these, and it really starts, which is why what I'm hopeful uh, for I guess the kids that are going to be in my son's generation. I'm hopeful because we've seen the damage, and it is becoming more and more apparent. So what I'm hopeful for is that kids, parents, because it starts with the parents, it starts at home,
Hmm.
pushing kids to take risks, not worrying about them getting hurt, actively training them to talk to people and feel uncomfortable and to work through that.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Not running to this side every time they make a mistake, letting them get hurt in the world.
Yeah, man. I mean, yeah, there's a couple last things before we head out of here. But yeah, I mean, I even spoke to somebody who started like a company called Journey, and like they're talking about like older people having to find meaning again. And I think like the thing that he was saying was our parents' generation, they needed to survive. They didn't have credit cards. They were new to the country. Maybe they
Yep.
escaping a different life that they, things were changing like that. But us, or me particularly, I wouldn't say you necessarily, but it depends how you look at it. But like, just having the luxuries, right? Like I've known people who are like famous, rich or famous, and like the luxuries, they kind of make life, they invent their hardship rather than real hardship being there. You know what I'm saying? Like,
Yeah.
it's an interesting rabbit hole to follow through, but I think like I mean, it definitely does help. We all need help somewhere, but I think like, yeah, just having that invention of your own difficulty, I think
Look,
it's you're in your
I
head.
tell
Yeah.
guys to do three things if they want to develop.
Yeah.
You do these three things for a year, you'll get everything you need. One, take a fight. Train in a gym and train for a fight and take that fight within 6 months of signing up. That's all you need to get an amateur fight. Probably less, but at least 6 months if you want to feel good and train, really become training. Learn a language that is not your native language to at least a B1 level of ability.
There you go.
And three, live on commission sales.
What was the third one?
Live on commission sales.
Oh, okay. Like sell only
Yeah.
use what you make from stuff you sell, basically.
You will be a different human in a year.
Is that what you did, Ed? Or I mean, you've
That
seen that
is
work?
okay. So that is what I did. I didn't. No, I lived on commission shit. That sucked actually. Now that I remember, that was what pushed me to go. Funny enough,
To fight?
that's what. No, I was already fighting by that point, but that's what pushed me to go back to school.
Oh shit. You were just door to door or something like that?
Nah, man. I sold cell phones, man,
Oh
and they
shit. Trap
fired you
phones?
if you did. No,
Not
not
trap
try.
phones, but
Guys did come in there.
yeah, man.
We always knew what it looked like. Anytime they came for a fucking a prepaid,
Oh shit.
the
Drug
same
dealers.
guy come every month for new prepaid number. And I'm like, I didn't even ask questions. I just because I didn't want to know.
Yeah,
I
right,
mean, I
right.
didn't even want to. I didn't even want them to think I knew what to ask.
Yeah. That's funny. But yeah, so that pushed you to go back to school, which or get a degree basically.
Yeah, yeah. Because I didn't know any other way to make a living, and I thought give myself some options, and
Do you
I
use
really
physics
did.
right now, or I
But
mean, is
nah,
it part of your life at all? No,
is
but
it part of my life? No, I'm not like working in the lab or anything like that. I mean, I'll tutor if someone is interested. I really
oh,
enjoy that.
uh-huh.
But in terms of like, do I use the degree for anything the degree was intended for? No, it sits on the wall and reminds me that I can do hard things.
Very true. Yeah, very true. Yeah. Well, so what's your before the last 5 minutes, like Ed, what's your career like right now? I know you got a book coming out and you got like some speaking stuff, but social media is rocking for you. But like, where do you think like you would say you are with your entrepreneurial career, or just
I,
jobs in general,
I I
you know?
feel like it, redid everything and really have a clear focus now with my book and the speaking and the coaching, and And now it's just creating content and reaching out and getting that going.
Do you a question for you? Do you hit up like people like universities or places to speak, or
I'm starting
corporations?
that now. They've hit me up in the past.
Yeah.
So now I'm actively on the offensive, and that required doing a lot of just
Outreach.
coming up well first, the outreach is like the last part.
Yeah.
I had to build out my systems and everything beforehand, but now I got a pretty solid setup, and so now it's very easy to have a conversation and do outreach with people. That's actually one of my tasks this week, is to send an email to my list going like, hey, yada 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 yada. Here's what I do, and
Yeah, that's cool. Did you ever think that you'd make a living doing that? Like when you're
no, never.
Yeah, right?
This
No.
whole
Or make some money out of it?
did I think I'd ever get paid to speak? I always wanted to be a writer, but
Uh-huh.
I don't think I ever envisioned that happening for me, being paid to speak.
Man, yeah, you're success. I mean, I definitely think you got a good success story. Coming from projects and to where you are now, I think it's a good thing, man. Like,
Thank
I
you.
think I think even hearing you just say stuff like I need to hear about, facing hardship and just you're not gonna die if you hit on a chick and fucking rejects you and all that stuff. I don't think like maybe there's enough dialogue around that because we're only shown like the fucking favorite algorithm stuff where it's like these people are getting married, right? And like, or they're having a
Yeah.
kid, or you never really knew that they went to 20 fights and they almost killed each other, Like they, there's a lot of realism, and that makes a value of like the friendship or the thing you have. Because if you don't put in work, then there's really you could just
Yeah.
throw it away.
Then what are you doing? But it's fun.
Yeah, Ed, last two questions here are if you could have a dinner with anyone in the world and just pick their brain, who do you think that would be with?
Ah, man, I haven't really.
If you could,
Um.
yeah.
Ooh. Hmm. Right now it'd probably be John Haidt, Dr. John Haidt,
Mm,
the guy who wrote,
coddled of the human mind.
righteous. He wrote The Righteous Mind, Why Good People Fight Over Politics, or something to that, and then the Coddling of the American Mind. I enjoy his essays. I enjoy uh, his way of thinking because it's yeah. I mean, yeah, that's who it would be.
Hmm. What's Ed Latimore's routine if you'd have to say in the morning? Like, is it alarm clock? Is it like the baby wakes you up? Is it
The
go for
fucking
a
baby
run?
wakes me up. You don't need an alarm clock with a baby. Ugh,
Yeah.
it's crazy. No. Right now, that's my routine. You can catch me in a bit of a transition moment, man. There's no real.
Bit of a
My
routine.
routine right now is work when I can.
Ah, shit.
That is my routine. And so what I have now, I set like go. I have my long term big goals, and I have them broken down into like tactically what I need to do at the moment,
Hmm.
and I tackle that as it comes up. But yeah, but routine. I think a routine is a really nice. It's not quite a luxury, um, but it
Hmm.
might be. I'd like to get to a point where I just have a luxury routine. But right now, I'm very much kind of working when I get a chance to,
Hmm.
and it makes a lot of sense to me to do it that way.
Man, yeah. Last question, Ed, is if you could give advice to a younger Ed Latimore who's 20 years old and you're
Don't drink.
don't
It's
drink, there you go.
easy. The alcohol ain't no benefit. Not a
Second,
single one.
yeah, man. And Ed, my bad, I came up with a new question. But what would you say your startup mindset is if you had to say, that's just kind of like the title of this, but um when it comes
Ah,
to like overcoming shit. Or
you just got to do it, man.
just do it. There we go.
Yeah, that's it. You'll figure it out, or you won't, and you'll learn something.
True, man. Yeah. Well, Ed, this has been an enriching conversation, man. I think, I learned a lot and the listeners will dig it a lot and have a lot of value. If they want to reach out to you, I mean, for speaking or for, just whatever it is,
I'm Ed Latimore everywhere. So
Okay.
edlatimore.com is my website. At Ed Latimore on Twitter, Ed Latimore LinkedIn, Ed Latimore Instagram, Ed Latimore YouTube.
Hmm.
So I'm everywhere. I'm the same guy everywhere. Thank goodness. And I'm happy my son is not Ed Latimore because he'd be pissed.
Yeah, man. Ed, man, thank you so much, man. This has been a great conversation. I've, learned a ton of things.
Hey, no problem.
Love over hate, I am. Whatever I create, I am. Bold, staying brave, I am. I am. Patient, never waiting, I am. The face of motivation, I am. The words of inspiration, I am.